This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Some things you wouldn't mind being stuck with, like a huge inheritance. But a phone that has to be plugged in just right so it charges is not one of those things. Switch to Verizon and we'll pay off your old phone up to $800 via prepaid MasterCard for a new one on us. Just trade in any phone from our top brands with select unlimited plans. $829.99 purchase with new smartphone line on select unlimited plans. Minimum $90 per month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months required. Less $830 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Trade-in terms apply. Payoff phone requires smartphone purchase and port-in with new smartphone line on select plan. Must provide most recent bill showing payoff amount of eligible phone. Additional terms apply.
Welcome back to Mama Mystery. I am your host, Kelly. And if you're enjoying my podcast, Mama Mystery, then you'll love the new true crime podcast, Mind of a Serial Killer. What drives someone to commit the unthinkable? How does an ordinary person transform into a serial killer? Well, if you've ever been curious about the twisted psychology behind the world's most infamous criminals, Mind of a Serial Killer is the podcast for you. From Jeffrey Dahmer to Ted Bundy to the Night Stalker, Mind of a Serial Killer takes you deep into the chilling minds of history's most terrifying murderers. Featuring expert analysis from licensed psychologist Dr. Tristin Engels, discover what drove the world's most notorious serial killers to commit such horrific acts. Check out this special preview, and then follow Mind of a Serial Killer, a Crime House Studios original. New episodes drop every Monday. Again, that's Mind of a Serial Killer. Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
You know the names: Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, the Night Stalker. You may even know their stories. But on this show, you're also going to get inside their minds. This is Mind of a Serial Killer, a Crime House original. I'm Vanessa Richardson. I've been telling stories about serial killers for years, and I've always wondered, how could someone be capable of such violence? But doing my own research isn't enough. To get the full picture, I needed an expert.
My name is Dr. Tristin Engels. As a licensed clinical and forensic psychologist, I've dedicated my career to helping violent offenders lower their risk of reoffending. As Vanessa takes you through the stories of history's most famous serial killers, I'll be analyzing their minds, their motives, and their murders. That's what makes this podcast different.
Mind of a Serial Killer is a Crime House original. Every Monday, join us as we explore the psyches of the world's most frightening offenders. Follow now on your favorite podcast platform.
Check out this clip.
In our last episode, we focused on Jeffrey Dahmer's shifting feelings after his first murder when he killed Stephen Hicks in 1978. Elation, arousal, and eventually guilt and fear. We talked about his attempts to push down those emotions, mainly through the abuse of alcohol. Although he was able to fight off his violent urges for a while, by the late 80s, he wasn't able to hold them back anymore. And on the night of November 21st, 1987, 27-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer killed his second victim, a young man named Stephen Twomey. According to him, he had no memory of actually doing it.
There's a lot of different reasons why that can occur. For some, it's due to a heightened state of psychosis or mania. A lot of times there's a loss of memory during those states just because you're disoriented, you're not in touch with reality. There's also reasons that can happen from substance use or misuse or dependence that can also create impairment in memory. And in some cases, for people with long-term dependency on alcohol, there's a thing called Korsakoff syndrome, which can actually create an amnestic sort of process. I don't think that's what's happening here with Jeffrey. There's another aspect here of like a dissociative rage. And I think that is what explains Jeffrey's behavior in this case, if he truly does not remember it.
Is there a possibility that he could have just lied about not remembering?
Yes. That's another thing is, like I said, if he truly doesn't remember it, it could likely have been a dissociative rage, but also he's intentionally not wanting to remember it, consciously or subconsciously repressing the memory because it's discomforting to him.
Whether Jeffrey actually remembered killing Stephen Twomey or not, he still had a big problem on his hands: what to do with the body. Somehow he had to get it out of the hotel undetected, then figure out what to do with it from there. So he hung the Do Not Disturb sign on the door, then headed for the nearest department store and picked up the biggest wheeled suitcase he could find. When he got back to the hotel, he managed to cram the body inside, then waited until the middle of the night and called a cab. Jeffrey didn't have a car of his own at this point, so he couldn't drive to the middle of nowhere and dump the remains. He had to take it home. And remember, he was still living with his 83-year-old grandmother, Catherine, at the time. Mind of a Serial Killer is a Crime House original. New episodes drop every Monday. Follow now on your favorite podcast platform.